feet.
It's the Restaurant Morning Show. I think this is episode 15.
Well, welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome, everybody. Good to see you.
Yeah. Daily dose of insight, strategy, and no BS for the restaurant industry.
No BS.
The industry we love.
Yeah, so grab your cup of coffee.
Grab your cup of coffee.
You're walking into your restaurant right now. You're opening the doors. Prep crew's there, maybe. Maybe you are the prep crew.
Yeah.
Who fucking knows?
Who knows, right?
But it's time to get after it.
It's time to get after it. Industry veterans, Joe Bates and Adam Barringer. Yeah. So always we start with headlines. I know you got some headlines, as well as I do. Yours a little bit more depressing than mine.
And not on purpose, but
it
came across my feed, and this did touch us last year.
Yeah, and actually it leads into something, and we don't necessarily want to get into politics, but it certainly does play into politics, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then the big item that we're going to talk about is management versus leadership in the restaurant.
Okay.
And when we had a restaurant coach, he's like, don't refer to your team as managers, when in fact they are managers.
Sure.
And but I think they have to be both. So that's
cool.
That's something that we could talk about. But why don't you go ahead and
so tons of news, whether it's McDonald's or Starbucks or things that are happening. But this came across
or Applebee's and IHOP.
Yeah, let's see if that happens, right?
Yeah.
Outback and Carrabba's did that many, many years ago, and same building, and split down the middle. So who knows? Yeah, maybe it'll work. But
did it work there?
I don't know. It was in, where was that? San Jose.
Do you know the way to San Jose?
And with that, let's move on.
Okay.
So, restaurant industry long grappled with substance abuse. It's just, we've been doing this for 30 plus years, and it's kind of been part of the culture, right? You get your ass beat all night, whether you're in the kitchen or the front of the house. You make your money. Everybody's going out after work.
Right.
Let's go get some drinks, or a shift drink that becomes 3 more at the bar. It's just good or bad, part of the culture. Well, that culture has shifted, and maybe it's always been this way, but our industry is the second leading industry in overdose deaths behind construction workers. Now, part of that, I think, is it's a large industry.
15.9 million workers is what we're approaching.
In food service.
Correct.
So it's a large number to begin with. But it's just a little bit staggering. And, there was a story out in, I believe it was Denver, where 3 or 4 employees didn't show up for their work. Somebody went over there, and 5 people in the room, 4 of them dead, fentanyl overdose, cocaine. Again, I mentioned that it hit close to home with one of our team members who was not a drug user. And a buddy came into town, hey, let's do this one night. And that one night turned into his last night.
It's a shame. And it's a shame that I will say this, it's a shame that the administrations allowed fentanyl to creep over our borders, being manufactured in China and Mexico and coming through the northern border and southern border. It was a damn shame.
Well, and no matter how it got here, it's in our businesses right now, and it's in our restaurants. And so I just wanted to kind of talk just briefly about how can restaurants be helpful, whether it's drug addiction, alcoholism, any addiction that might be challenging. And I would just say foster open communication with your team.
But it's
if
also,
somebody looks troubled, talk to them about it.
I would say that's one thing, and also lead by example. If you're showing that you're working out and you believe in self-care and you make that a priority, I think that a lot of your staff members are going to look up to you and like, I want to be that guy.
Right.
I don't want to be the drunk.
Are you the restaurateur that, it's 8 o'clock, the rush is over, let me pop 1 or 2 or 3 while I close? And
hey,
listen,
not like that.
We've all done some crazy stuff, but these numbers are staggering.
They are.
So, again, we talk to independent restaurateurs, provide training and resources. Doesn't mean you need to do it yourself. Establish clear policies inside your 4 walls. Promote work-life balance. Right. And implement employee assistant programs where you can. That doesn't fit everybody. And, it in the article said equip staff with overdose response tools like Narcan. I don't know if you implement some or all, or just show that you care. If somebody's troubled or somebody's heading down a dark path.
Sure.
Maybe you can't save them, but you can. So anyway,
Yeah.
it's a reality in our business.
And you know what? I'll circle back around to
Yeah.
that because that's kind of important stuff that when you were talking about, I'm going to go on some 2025 trends.
Okay.
And this is kind of a little bit more uplifting.
Good.
But when
Yeah,
we-
because mine was a bit of a downer.
I know, but when we get to that,
Yeah.
I do want to talk about it. We talk about management and leadership and the difference, but there's opportunity and cautious optimism that will drive the restaurant industry in 2025. We are projected to do 1.5 trillion in sales.
I'm sorry?
1.5 trillion in sales.
And that's a T.
And that's a T.
Yeah.
With adding 200,000 jobs across the country, bringing the industry total to 15.9 million. Meeting customers' wants and needs and creating an experience that keeps them coming back will be paramount to growth. So, 1.5 trillion in sales.
Mm-hmm.
A strong majority of consumers say they would use restaurants more. Industry workforce is projected to grow. Many restaurant customers, including 64% of full-service customers, say the dining experience is more important than price. And we've talked about that. We've hit on that. We've hit on that.
And that doesn't matter what kind of restaurant it is. You can be a burger shake place, or you can be fine dining. Whatever your niche is, give them the best experience for that niche. And they'll pay the price for it.
Right. But also, value does remain top of mind. And I think that you're seeing really some innovative stuff, bundling, and I'm not talking about State Farm type of bundling. I mean, where you have an appetizer, a salad, an entree, or maybe even a glass of wine in there. So value does remain top of mind. And then boosting on-premise traffic is a priority.
Right.
So even though we do talk about off-premise catering or third-party deliveries, on-premise is still a majority of what restaurant operators across segments.
We've talked about it before, though. You got to have your shit together. Like
You
driving
do.
people into a shitty restaurant is only going to kill you.
Right.
You got to have your menu right. You got to have your costing right. You got to have your service right. Then you market. You can't market first when everything is not running well inside your four walls.
Sure. So anyway, there's some really there's reasons to be optimistic for 2025, and that kind of brings us in when you talk about having to hire. 200,000 job openings and 15.9 million people in the industry, you have to manage those people and you have to lead those people. And when we think about what do our managers do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, they've got the hard skills, I call them. So you've got to unlock the doors. You've got to get the lights on. You've got to write a prep list. You've got to check
make
your
sure
reservations.
Make sure the kitchen and the bar are stocked and ready to go.
You got hard things that you can teach anybody, basically.
You got to make sure the schedule's written.
Right.
And it's written with budgeted sales.
Right.
I mean, there are so many, management skills. That's the systems. It's an accountability. That's what keeps the wheels on the track.
Right. So you have to manage your restaurant.
You have to manage it.
So where does leadership come in?
Well, leadership comes in. You have to also, you can't, because if you just managed, there's no passion, right? And people, when they come and dine in your restaurant, they need to feel passion.
Right.
But a manager also needs to be a leader. They need to be able to motivate their team. Yeah. They need to create that culture inside the restaurant. They got to make people want to come to work, not just because they're coming in to get that paycheck.
Right.
And it's based on your mission. It's based on your core values. And yet you have to inspire people to do their job.
And I hear people, you need to be a leader, lead your restaurant, lead. But what if it's all leadership and no management?
Well, then it's chaos because it's a lot of fun and you got a lot of passion, but everyone's having fun in the kitchen. And
everybody's doing their own thing.
Right. Yeah.
So there's no systems.
Right. There's no standards.
And that's where management comes in.
Yes.
It really is a blended role. And there's a time for leadership. Maybe you lead people, but you manage your systems.
Yeah.
And lead the people to buy into what you're doing and lead your people to buy into your mission.
Right. And this goes back to when you talk about, whether it's substance abuse or, issues such as that. If you're leading by example,
Yeah.
if you are a role model and people look up to you, I think that plays a really big part in a lot of what you're talking about, what you had brought up.
Yeah, and we've talked to people before about leading by example and setting the culture, and it starts with you, and it starts with leadership.
Right.
And
it's also just taking 2 minutes to 5 minutes and just going up to one of your employees and say, hey, how are you doing today?
Right.
What's happening in your life?
That's powerful.
Just it is so powerful. And then also giving gratitude. Thank you for coming in today.
Yeah.
Thank you for the job that you've done. And it could be very specific related to the way that you handled that guest was awesome. And just that little bit of gratitude goes so far.
And it's a little bit of a tangent, but people don't quit jobs.
Yeah.
People quit people. People
Yeah.
quit toxic leaders.
Yeah.
And because they can go down the street and serve or cook
Sure.
for
Anywhere.
within pennies of what you're paying them.
Yeah.
So if you've got high turnover, you better look in the fucking mirror.
Yeah.
And find out why.
Yeah, and according to the National Restaurant Association, the cost of turnover for frontline employees is somewhere around $5,800.
It's insane.
It
Somebody's
is.
making $18, $19, $22 an hour. They want another 50 cents, and you're like, haul ass.
Oh yeah,
Right?
you
If they're a good employee.
oh yeah,
If they're a good employee.
Yeah.
Pay them the 50 cents,
yeah,
man. And then
yeah.
expect more of them.
Right.
Instead of trying to get somebody in that's
But again,
a maybe.
being a manager might not want to pay that, but a leader recognizes that and
Right.
recognizes the need to keep that employee and
Right.
really engage in that employee, and then showing them a path, a career path.
Yeah.
It's not just a job. So yeah, you have to manage, you have to be a leader, but you have to be both. And if you lean too much to being a manager, you become a micromanager. If you lean too much to being a leader, you're going to have a little bit of chaos. A lot of passion,
Yeah.
but really no system. So it's blended. You have to have both.
And you might not be good at one of them or
Right.
the other one. So maybe a team member can kind of
Sure.
do some of it, and you can do some of it, and it works that way.
And I felt through my career, at times I was a really good manager, but not a good leader.
Mm-hmm.
And then other times I'm a really good leader, but I've kind of lacked on the management skills. So it's definitely, it's a balance that everyone has to find themselves.
Yeah.
So,
Well, solid, man. Good,
all right.
Good
Well,
notes.
Good notes. All right. And let's see. What else we got?
Yeah. Restaurant morning show. And a lot of news out there. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
And we'll bring it back to you.
All right.
So enjoy
morning.
that morning cup of coffee.